Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Super Black Reads. I am Carl.
And I am Dan.
You know how often I have to cut out the space between when I say my name and when you say your name? That's like
Really?
there's like the editing time. That's like I would give it maybe 40%.
Oh, wow.
It's just cutting out in that little space because granted, I don't edit too much out, but when I do, it's usually that.
Oh wow, dead air. I didn't realize that was. I gotta be a little quicker on that uptake. Then how's that take then? Should we do it again?
No, I'm keeping all of this in.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Yeah, we came in hot. It sounds like it feels like we came a little hot this time.
I'm hot as hell. It's hot in this room.
All right.
I hope everyone's doing well. Summer's upon us. It's coming. It's like at the door. It's like 70-something degrees. Dan and I are trapped in our offices so we can bring you some fantastic content based off of The Terrifics Volume 1. Huh? Like that transition? We'll right into it. Drove that honking bus right into the topic. Dan, let's kick it off hot.
Yes.
What did you think of The Terrifics Volume 1?
Hot
takes. What are you feeling? Oh, you weren't a fan. All right, so this is going to be fun.
Oh, yeah. Yes. It's like, should we talk about what the Terrifics is, or you just want to have them figured out as we talk, like have it be context clues?
How about this? I'll give them the breakdown straight from DC Comics.
Sounds good.
All right. Here we go, guys. The Terrifics, Volume 1. When Mr. Terrific, Metamorpho, Plastic Man, and Phantom Girl find themselves bound together by a tragic accident, our team of unlikely allies must rely on one another to make their way back home. But a startling revelation on their return trip brings them face to face with a new mystery. Where in the universe is Tom Strong? So that's the breakdown of The Terrifics Volume 1. It is a DC Comics property. It contains a lot of B-list superheroes and supervillains. I suppose, I mean, we talked about this off air, but it is really DC's Fantastic Four.
Yes, absolutely.
And I love the fact that you didn't like it because I love this book.
Oh my God! So we got a lot to talk about right now. I'm gonna start off by saying this, and I've mentioned on the past episodes already. Like, I purposely go into these books with knowing as little as possible. Mm-hmm. You know, you just give me the name, I literally Google it, I type it in, and I download the volume, and I start reading. Right. So jumping into this, I'll be very honest. I'm not a DC guy. You know, something about DC used to rub me the wrong way. You know, like I tried back in the early 2000s to get back into it, but all the stories just felt so out of this world, and the characters don't seem grounded. And and it's like, and then so that applies to this right here. And then on top of that, you're dealing with so many years of continuity that are being thrown at you in these first, like, they had to break down on a couple of panels, like why Plastic Man is, you know, where he is, like why he's in another dimension, and why he's an egg, and all this crazy stuff. Like, it's like, I don't want that anymore. Like, I feel myself getting away from mainstream comic books and actually looking for those, like, for those Black Hammers, for those Bitter Roots, because it's a new story, it's a new family, and it's not bogged down by continuity. Because even as much as I'm not a DC person, I know these characters, and I know the background of these characters. So as I was reading this, like, why are they together? You know, why is Phantom Girl here? Because Phantom Girl is part of the Legion, and the Legion is like a far-flung superhero team, like far-flung into the future. Why is she here now? So, like, all this stuff wasn't making sense. And bringing these characters together, and when I was reading them, I'm like, oh, so Mr. Terrific is Mr. Fantastic, and wait, Metamorpho, he's clearly the Thing. Like, he even talks like the Thing. Mm-hmm. You know, Plastic Man is Johnny Storm turned up a notch, and he was just annoying, and all his jokes were falling flat. Like I didn't laugh once, and I don't know if that was the point. Like he just corny, and then Phantom Girl for is Invisible Woman.
Fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah, Mr. Fantastic. It's like Invisible Woman, and like this lonely character that exists in the world of Mr. Fantastic, Mr. Terrific, these cold, calculating characters, and she literally can't touch or feel anything, so she's extra
translucent. Yeah, she's translucent. You can see through her. Yeah.
Yes, and a lot of this to me read like Golden Age comics.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a fan. It's like, as much as I respect the craft, as much as we wouldn't be here now if it wasn't for the Golden Age. Mm-hmm. Like, I need certain things to make sense. I need certain things to be grounded. Like, I get like these big, crazy worlds. Like, I didn't feel grounded at all when I was reading this. Like, the Terrifics, who's named after Mr. Terrific, I couldn't get a feel for this character. Like, he was just cold, and I couldn't care less.
I am on the opposite end of your argument, and I think all of your criticisms are valid. I think everything you said is true. I like the book for those reasons. I am a DC guy. I didn't think I was until
that's a notch in the negative category for me, friend. It's like we are less friends because you just said that.
All right, good. I'm fine. I'll ride this train all the way. By the end of this episode, we'll never talk again. Trust me. So,
damn. All right, cool.
The reason I like DC so much is that it is that fantastical. It's not trying to not be that. It is very much the classic. We're good, they're evil. We wear these big, symbols on our chest that mean that we are to be respected, and we're the ones who are going to be protectors. I love the fact that all the superheroes are branded in some way, and that's just my design sense coming out. I'm like, I love logos. I love the fact that they are all specifically branded. They have their own branded universes, even to the point where the Flash has his own city, and then Gotham is its own thing, and then Metropolis and Star City. All these places have their own unique feel. And the heroes and villains within them are, kind of almost trapped within their little beta universes. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes they all get to play together. So I didn't know I was a DC guy until maybe a year or two ago, where I really sat down and started thinking about it. And that's exactly when I read this book, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it. It's campy. It's stupid. It's fun. It feels a lot like the Batman 60s TV show to me.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Where I don't like that show, but I can appreciate what it was and what it did for comic books. Mm-hmm. And I think that the Terrifics is kind of this tongue-in-cheek send up to the Fantastic Four. It is 100% a parody of one of the Fantastic Four, but it's satirical almost, right? It's like they're taking themselves seriously, but not too seriously. Like the parallels between like Mr. Terrific and Mr. Fantastic, down to their names. I feel like there was a boardroom meeting where they were like, does anyone notice how similar Mr. Terrific is to Mr. Fantastic? And they were just like, who else can we find that is similar to those other? And they legit went through their catalog of superheroes, and they're like, this person's like this. That's why Phantom Girl works, is because they had a backlog of people that probably you didn't know about, or not you specifically, but the royal you. Mm-hmm. And they just started pulling people who would fit into a Fantastic Four story. And as you read it, it plays out like a very campy episode of a 60s TV show. Mm-hmm. It's like down to Metamorpho's dialogue, which is 100% the Thing, but also the Thing was just an old school Brooklyn way of speaking.
Yeah.
He just spoke like that, and they just adapted that for Metamorpho, who fits that mold.
Yeah, but it's like let's be clear. Metamorpho always spoke like that.
Yeah.
But it's just when you bring all four characters together, it just makes it's just blatant in terms of like, oh, this is what they're trying to do. And
Yeah.
like you said off air, like this is more likely, well, not even off air, on air as well. This is more likely by design. They did this by design because these characters, well, not these characters, these writers, these storytellers, mainly Jeff Lemire, wanted to tell a Fantastic Four story in the DC universe.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I could tell he was having a lot of fun with it. And there were definitely upsides to a lot of this, and we'll get into that in a second. But as a whole, I can't see. It's like I was a little upset because how do you end a volume on a major cliffhanger? It's like
don't they all?
No, like they didn't clean like what's the a cliffhanger starts. But like I want to believe, like a lot of these books, when the volume ends, like a major chunk of the story has been resolved, or something has happened where the team comes together, and like another villain has been dispatched, and they have somewhere to go from there. Like
Mm-hmm.
at the end of this, it didn't seem like they had come together. It didn't seem like the main plot was actually resolved. It just seems like, oh no, we're going to now take it into the second volume. Where that clear analog for Doctor Doom shows up at the end. And I'm like, oh, I expected
Doom.
Yeah,
He's so Doctor Doom.
I expected it to like at least one more issue. It's like, okay, all right, so we now get to introduce this character, find out why he's here, so they can have like a small victory, and then he reveals his big overarching plot. It's like, oh no, Tom Strong. I'm here to destroy Tom Strong, and boom, you have to pick up the next volume. It's like, I'm not a fan of that. Like, at least close that loop first, and then drop the cliffhanger, and not make me feel like I'm actually completely missing out on something.
See, I disagree because they told two separate stories in
Mm-hmm.
the first volume, right? They had the come together story. They introduced their
Mm-hmm.
own kind of like red herring in what's that doctor's name?
Dr. Stagg?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Simon Stagg. He's kind of like their red herring villain. And then they went on to have, adventures as a team together. And then to entice you to get to the next volume, their overarching through line was the Tom Strong thing. That appeared in the beginning of the volume, and then at the end they're like, well, this is going to be a continuous story.
Mm-hmm.
The other kind of adventures were almost side event. It's like having a serialized TV show, right?
Yes.
So like Psych or Monk or whatever, like they have their individual episodes with the villain of the week or whatever, but then there's always like that through line that carries you throughout the season, so that by the end they resolve it.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the Tom Strong through line. I am not, I don't know, a Tom Strong fan, but by the end I was like, okay, like you said, Doctor Doom shows up. Legit. His name is Dr. Dread. See, this is why I like the book, is that they give 0 Fs that they are just ripping Fantastic Four off from top to tails. They are just stealing the blueprint of Fantastic Four and using their characters almost to show like, man, we could do that. Like Fantastic Four is not a difficult thing to do. I almost feel like they're like, this is how you tell a Fantastic Four story correctly, which I think is, I've never read a Fantastic Four story that I liked.
Really?
I like this version of the Fantastic Four. Now, is it because that Mr. Terrific is running it? No. Because like you said, he is very cold. He is hard to get behind. As a matter of fact, let's use that as a transition point to just kind of turn this episode on its head. What are your thoughts of Mr. Fantastic as a character?
Mr. Terrific?
Mr. Terrific, sorry, not Mr. Fantastic.
Yes. I have no real skin in the game when it comes to this character. Like, I know he exists. I respect that. Well, oh man, this is something that part of the reason. This is something that turned me off, and as I'm like literally like, this is me sitting in therapy, like really like getting this out here. It feels like they went out of their way to, at one introduction of Mr. Terrific, the third smartest man in the DC universe.
Yeah, oh, that was such a dig.
I was like, really? It's like, oh, come on. Oh, you got to be kidding me. Like you can say, one of the smartest, but like to say the third, like how, and he even says like, that's not even quantifiable.
Yeah.
No. So now for the writer to actually say that he's the third smartest man in the universe, like that was really weird for me to read that. And then have Mr. Terrific once again say, no, it's like, that's neither here nor there, because that's my intelligence is unquantifiable compared to anybody else's, like, but, and at the same time,
who would be the first two though?
I want to say it would be Batman.
Okay.
And the Blue Beetle. What's his name? Ray Palmer.
That's the Atom.
Yes. The
Ted Kord is Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
What about Lex Luthor?
Maybe. Okay. Let's look this up as we speak. You can continue. No. You look it up. I'm going to continue talking because I got a lot to say about this. Like, go
for it, man. Take the reins. Go.
Okay. So that weird dig, calling him the third smartest man in the DC universe, but at the same time, I guess it's the runs I've read about him. Like, he has no real personality. Like, yes, we know he's smart, but there's nothing about him, to me, that makes me want to know about this character anymore. He feels like cardboard.
Okay. Anytime he's presented. Just to cut across you, Lex Luthor is number one.
Mm-hmm.
And you were right. Ray Palmer is number two.
Okay. All right. Yes.
And then Mr. Terrific is number three.
Yes. So, I mean, look, he's in good company. He's very good company. But once again, to say he's the third smartest, like, come on, really?
I think that was so funny that they legit tried to quantify him as the third smartest. He's bronze level smart in the DC universe.
Yes. Yeah. But ultimately, to put a nice little bow on it, like I have no feeling for this character whatsoever. I love his silhouette. I love the idea of him, like being this super intelligent inventor who's a superhero who's black. But other than that, like, I have nothing to really say about him, and that could even be said in his different iterations, like when he was on Arrow. Like, the interpretation of Arrow was like, meh.
Yeah, exactly. Very, very whatever.
Like, they didn't know what to do with them, because like the T-spheres, they could only take that so far. Mm-hmm. And even when they did the relaunch in the New 52, when they tried to launch a Mr. Terrific title, you can tell the creators didn't really know not they didn't have a clear game plan, but nobody was really down for that game plan because they thought it was boring.
So I'll just say that I think you're right. I think Mr. Terrific is a very boring character. Mm. But, and this kind of goes for and this is what I've noticed reading comics for so long, for me, is that every superhero or supervillain has a place if you write them correctly, right? Mm-hmm. If you put them in a setting where they can shine. So someone like Kite Man, who his name is Kite Man. It is a man who flies a kite. He's flying on a kite. That is just, in any other context, it's very stupid. Mm-hmm. But there was a storyline where he's like, the kite is the kite that his dead son was flying when he got killed by collateral damage or something. So he flies the kite as like an homage to his son and to use it as revenge against whoever. Yeah. So they wrote Kite Man to be a very poignant hero. And if I'll send you the link to the breakdown of it. He's a legit great character now. And he's in the Harley Quinn DC cartoon, and he's great.
Yeah, he's so well. I was about to say, he's so well utilized in that show, and I think at the same time, like, because he's like a D-list character, they're able to give him a new personality. They're able to give him a little extra something to make him more interesting. Mm-hmm. And it's like, we can get back to this in the show when we ask the age-old question, like, does it matter that Mr. Terrific is black? That type of thing. how would you make this character better? Stuff like
But
that.
yeah, but wait, but just to close that loop, like Kite Man was made correctly, right? Like they were able to pivot his character to be relevant. I think Mr. Terrific, this was their attempt at trying to make him relevant. And I think it works because he is so cold. They put him in a position where he has to learn to not be that anymore by legit being tethered to these three other wacky characters where their personalities are so all over the map and he is so not, he's so dry. It elevates his personality to, he's like, man, this guy's really is like dead weight. He's so boring. But that's the point. He is an intellectual, boring man who is surrounded by the most fantastical people he's ever met.
Oh
right?
man, and they like hit you over the head with it, like
With a blunt object. It's a blunt object. Yeah, they're battering you with it.
Oh man! All right, yes, all right, cool. Yeah, no, I totally get the point you're making. I agree with the point you're making as well. You know, we're just coming from two different sides of the spectrum in terms of how we relate to these properties and these characters.
Yeah, I don't deny that he's boring as hell. And just to give people some behind the curtain stuff, before we transitioned the podcast, one of the earliest episodes that I was scoping was for Mr. Terrific. And I went out and I bought research and I read his books. And I tell you, I could not finish them. They were so bad. So bad. And he was boring and he was unfun and nothing he did was interesting. And those T-spheres are stupid. Nothing about the books where he was the main focus was of any interest to me. So, to the point where I started recording a podcast. Dan, I didn't tell you this. I started recording an episode and half the episode is just me talking to myself about how much I don't like this episode or this character.
Oh, wow.
I have it recorded. It's in my I didn't delete it because it's so funny of me just going like, why am I doing this? This book sucks.
You need
Like,
to
I was talking to myself.
You need to find that audio and throw it in the outro. Like as we're fading out on this episode, we're fading out talk on this episode. Fade in that conversation to yourself, just to let all the listeners know that you are not kidding, because I know you're genuine because I've seen you talk to yourself.
Yeah,
you know,
it was a problem. It was like maybe 5 minutes of me just going like, this book is terrible. Why am I even doing this episode? I was like reading the book and I was just like, I can't find anything good to talk about. Like and then I just turned the recording off. There wasn't even a sign off. I was like, I'm done with this. And I put the book away. It was so bad. This book, I went in hesitant and I came out be like, okay, I get it. I get it. All right. So let's move forward. The art.
Yes.
You mentioned you want to talk about the art. So Dan, what are your thoughts on the art of
All
this
right.
book?
So this is me going in on why I started to stray away from mainstream comics. Because especially in this day and age, and I feel for the writers, I feel for everybody that's involved with these projects, because they have to start turning these things out so quickly, right? Because it used to be, once a month you get an issue. So the editor, the writer, the colorist, the inker, the artist had time to put these things in a bag and put all these books together. But some books, I don't know if this was the case, they start shipping twice a month now. And I couldn't, as an artist, I could not feel grounded because every 2 issues, the art was changing.
Yep.
And when the art changes in the middle of what I consider to be an arc, it's very, very off-putting. I remember the first time I started really picking up on it was when new X-Men started coming out, I think in the early 2000s with Grant Morrison as a writer. And you had, who was the artist? Oh, man. Frank Whiteley. Phenomenal artist. And then you could tell, but he's also synonymous with taking his sweet time finishing his art. So after like every 3 issues, they'd throw in like a Frank Whiteley copy, and it just felt off-putting. And that's what's happening here. So like in the first 3 issues, No, so sorry. The first issue 1 and 2, they refer to Jeff Lemire and Ivan Rice as the storytellers, but it seems like Jeff Lemire is the writer, and maybe he helps like plan out the action, but Ivan Rice is the artist, and yeah, he's good. He does a very cool Tom Strong drawing, and he loves Kirby dots apparently. But
Who doesn't?
yeah, but it just fell all over the place, you know. But he did a really good job for the most part. But then issue 3, you jump into Joe Bennett, who felt very slapdash in the way he's put together the art, but at the same time, which I found was crazy, and you could tell this is like this is where you kind of realize like it was a rush job. They have 3 inkers on this particular book, where all the rest of the books only have 1, right? And and you could tell where the inkers were switching from point to point because the art just felt off, and that throws me off. And then you jump from an issue 4, you jump to Doc Shanner, who I'm a huge fan of, love his art, and I was hoping it would stay like that for the rest of the time, but you only have him for one episode, it's like for 1 issue, and you jump into Joe Bennett, who, that was painful because he can't draw dogs. Like you have Doc Shanner introduce a Metamorpho pit bull in the issue before, and then issue 5 you jump in there and like you're looking at this pit bull and it is grotesque looking. And it just threw me off. So like that's what added to me not necessarily liking this as a whole, because as an artist I'm picking up on this stuff, and at the same time, let me back off by saying I absolutely respect a lot of comic book artists out there, because I know what they have to go through in order to get these things done in time. But you can also tell when the art is rushed, and a lot of times you can't blame that on the artist because they're working very, very strict deadlines.
Yeah.
And it feels like this project, artistically wise, was not given the proper amount of time it needed to breathe and really be fleshed out.
I for the most part agree. I think the art is, and this is just I don't think this is just for this book. It's just comic books in general.
Yeah.
Having artists kind of switch out in between comics and issues, and kind of watching the art style change. Like it'll go from a very dramatic, very like heavy shadows and kind of dim highlights to this like very poppy, colorful, like you said, like Kirby dot matrix pattern. Why did they switch it out? And I'm glad you told me. It's like it's usually deadlines and the fact that they have to switch out artists because some people are not available, or whatever the case may be. It's like we need a fast turnaround. We need to talk to these people, whatever. But yeah, the art changes are dramatically jarring. I didn't find Element Dog. I think that's what they named him. I didn't think he was that ugly. It sounded like a personal thing for you. He kind of went in.
It felt like he's not good at drawing animals in general. And there's a lot of comic book artists that are like that. Like me being an illustrator, I try my best to try to at least get the right photo reference, so I have something to work from. But it seemed as if he wasn't working from legit photo reference. So it's like certain pages, like, oh, that doesn't even look like a dog anymore.
Let me play devil's advocate and say there are no photo reference for a dog that can change elements. Just gonna put that out there.
At least the face.
Yeah, sometimes the face is a little rough.
Like you can find 3D models of a dog anywhere, right? So it's something to work off of, like at least get the basic shape. But the face, I'm trying to put the exact page as we're talking about it, because there's one just made me go, ugh, like just seeing it. I was like, oh, come on, guy.
Here, how about I'll tell you, go to page 117 of volume 1. There is a shot of Phantom Girl and the dog, and it is the most grotesque looking.
Yes, there it is.
Just scene in general. I'm going to take a picture and I'll post it in the show notes. But just the drawing in general is just frightening. She looks like a demon, and the dog looks just weird. Like it's just this weird amalgamation of just horror. It's really bad.
It's like did they get the notes of like which type of pit bull we're going to be referencing, but at the same time like picture reference. You know, it's like we all have the Googles, right? Just literally go on Google, find a face from different angles. Like you can go on Dogs of Instagram. Like you could literally go on Instagram, type in pit bull, and you will find dogs from different angles that to draw from, and it just didn't seem like it looks like a sock over somebody's hand that he was drawing.
So yeah, I agree with you. The art is rough. The dog art does get a little rough. I do think they do a serviceable job, given how unique all the characters are. You don't get lost. You know, like you kind of get it, and the tone does remain pretty much the same throughout. It's this campy, weird story of fantastical events happening with this motley crew of misfits who are legit, like just wrapped together by cosmic happenstance. I like the fact that it's so silly, and the art does reflect that a lot of the time, especially when you have a character like Plastic Man, who is, for people who don't know, like one of the strongest superheroes ever created.
Because he's virtually unkillable.
It's not only he's unkillable, but he's also able to do literally anything because he can rearrange his atoms. But yeah, I like the fact that they take all these eclectic characters and kind of put them together and let them shine. That's why I like the story, is because they are allowed to do the wacky things that they are written to do, right? Like so many superheroes these days are so emo and brooding and Martha, and everything is, you know, dark and I can't love and I can't smile, and it's everything is so grim. The fact that they get to just play, like Plastic Man gets to be a weirdo, and Metamorpho gets to talk like he still lives in the 50s, and Mr. Terrific gets to just be this cold curmudgeon, but also super smart. Like there are panels where everyone is being super, and Mr. Terrific is being a scientist. Like he's like, I need you to do what you do so that I can do science right now. And that's where he fits in. Like he has to be able to do sciencey things while they all just be weird. So that's why I like the book. And I think that'll bring us to the end of the episode. We went long, but I did like our conversation. I like the fact that we finally found something we did not agree on and got to talk through it. We did not end up on the same side, and I don't think I ever will. I am a DC fanboy, and I didn't think I was, but I am. Dan, would you suggest people read this book? Or if they did read it, would you suggest they read volume 2?
I would say why not? You know, it's like, you know, I come in this being biased, and I admitted that in the very beginning. I'm not a big DC fan. And very similar to you, you enjoy the big story, you enjoy the big spectacle, so I don't see why other people wouldn't enjoy this as well. If you're willing to get over the art changes, yeah, go right ahead. Absolutely.
If you're not anal about art like Dan is.
Yeah. I didn't want to say it like that now, but yes.
Just super butt about art. Fine. Yeah. I would suggest it. Full disclosure, I did read both volume 1 and 2. I enjoyed both of them.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I would say if you have the need for a nice campy story, I think it works. And just so you guys know, we will be doing volume 2 only because, and I'll spoil this right now, Tom Strong has a black wife and a black child.
What?
Dan, where can they find you on socials?
You can find me at _basement_monster on Instagram. You can find me at www.thebasementmonster.com. On Twitter, which I never ever actually really use, maybe once a week. You can find me on Twitter at Dan underscore D underscore monster. I don't know. I'm gonna look up right now.
You got to change that, man. It's too long.
But it's like I tried so hard to get the right thing, but no, they wouldn't let me. Instagram was like, it's Dan underscore D underscore monster. No, that's short. That's shorter than D basic monster.
Still super long. And don't forget to pick up Dan's book, The Carnival Prince. And he has an upcoming book that I won't spoil, and he'll let you guys know about that when it comes out. You can follow us at superblack.org on Twitter and Instagram. Head over to superblack.co, read our articles, listen to all our back catalog of podcasts. It is great. You can follow us on twitch.tv/superblackplays, where we play video games with black leads, hyping up powerful characters of color because representation matters. Thank you all for listening. We will catch you next week with a brand new episode that I have not figured out.
I got some ideas. We'll talk all fair.
Sweet. Bye, everybody.
Talk to you later, guys.
Full stop. Hello, friends. This is where that episode Dan requested I add in would go. I couldn't find it. I recorded that thing maybe 5 years ago. Since then, I've transitioned through a number of computers, had a kid. I'd lost track of a bunch of stuff, and it seems like that is one of them. Now, I'm sure it's on a drive somewhere, so when I find it, I will, upload it somewhere or make it a bonus episode. But for now, enjoy the last 35 minutes of Mr. Terrific. You have another episode of one of the Super Black originals where we create a Mr. Terrific story from thin air. That's all I got for you. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not sorry because you're not sorry. You believe me. It does exist. Full stop.